So toe shots, fat shots, and then hooks, right, to the left. So we saw from the down the line version, right, if we draw the head on the wall for the toe strike, if I take my normal setup, which way did your head go during the backswing? Back this way, yeah. Right? So if I set up and the ball's in the middle of my club and I move back 2 inches, I can make that work, but then I got to move back forward 2 inches. And we see from your down the line, we start on the line good, but then even before the club gets going back, there's that back motion. So the first thing we want to do is learn how to keep the head on the wall from face on. We'll bring something in. And the point of that for you dudes is going to be just center face contact, which will get rid of that twist in your hand. Right. The second thing was the fat shots. Now there's 2 things you do for that, but the main and the first piece we want to control is the hip sway. So we see during your backswing from face on, the hips sway too much to the right early. And we would say, hey, let's look at your belt buckle as like a relative low point. So when I start, the belt buckle's in line with the ball. During my backswing, I want to stay on the ball, and then I want to move a little bit forward. And that moves my low point just forward of the ball. Does that make sense? Yeah. What we don't want to do is during the backswing, if my hips move to the right too much, which you could do, but then you have to move back forward even more on the way down, which you time out sometimes pretty good, right? Yeah. But then sometimes that's where your low point hits behind it. Yeah. So we want to learn during the backswing, instead of hips swaying, when your hips sway, they don't turn. We want the hips to turn back. If we put you in like a box or put something here on the side, which we'll do, your hips should stay in that box that started. Gotcha. So less sway, less movement off of it. We look at your shot pattern, right? And it's toe shots and fat shots. Well, if we look at this as sort of our low point, that makes sense. You move up and back, toe shots, and you move to the right, too much fat shots. And then the last part is the hooks to the left, and that comes from that grip we talked about. That right hand grip's a little bit under, and the handle a little bit too far forward. So the left shot's coming from the grip, the fat shots from the sway, and the toe shots from the head on the wall. You want to fix them up? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So let's flip flop spots. Let's keep your 8-iron. The 2 pieces we want to have here, we have the head on the wall. This is to avoid the, show me the bad way that you were doing before, where the head would go up and back, exactly. And you'd even come this way more, right? Right. Away from the wall. So this,
I was sitting back, yeah.
Yeah, like rocking back right away. Right. So this piece is feedback for keeping the head on the wall. And then we're going to add in this stick just to the right of your hip. And your goal is going to be to avoid this. Show me the bad where your hips move to the right away from the target. Bingo. So hip swaying too much weight to the right. Show me the good version now. Your head stays on the wall, and then our hips are going to stay inside the stick. Just away. Yeah, good. So what does that feel like compared to normal? Much more on top of the ball?
Yeah, centered on the ball.
Yeah, good. Let's do it again. So hip stays inside the stick. Yeah, perfect. So this here is going to be right like that. What do you feel with your weight in your legs there?
More even.
More even.
Yeah, I was giving too much to my back. Yeah.
Too much shift.
Yeah.
And for us, all of this stuff, good, is for solidness of contact, right? Ball first, ground second. Head on the wall for the toe shots, hips staying centered for the contact. Give me 2 more, just little half ones. Hips are turning, good. 1 more. Perfect, now reset. Hey guys, so before we dive into today's video, I want to talk about CogornoGolf.com and how we can work together to take your game to the next level. Specifically, how you can send your swings in to myself and our awesome team of coaches. We can identify what priorities you need to work on, what specific drills to do, how many reps to do, what days per week, a very personalized practice plan, and really help guide you through the process, what it's going to feel like, what to expect along the way, when to move on to the next priority, when to stay on the current priority, plus everything else you get with the site, all the practice plans, how to take your range game out onto the golf course, ultimately improve your swing and improve your game. Would love to see you at CogornoGolf.com. Put the link down below. This is where we'll start. I'm going to put my head on the wall. I'm going to put my hips here. And again, this is just for feedback so that when you're practicing by yourself, we got to have some sort of feedback, right? Some sort of stations that we can go to. This is how I know if we can set these up when you're alone, that you'll know you're doing it correctly. Gotcha. Not just the feels. So my head's going to start on the wall, and I'm going to keep my head on the wall, Tyler, just hip high, hip high. It could come off in the follow through, but I'm going to keep my head on. Hip turns inside the stick, head stays in the wall, just a little hip high, hip high. And as you're doing that, so that's We got 9 iron, you know, 80 yards with that. What we're gonna look to do, as we add a ball in here for you, is get the solidness of contact, and then we'll talk about the grip and the shaft part. Cool. So keep it short and slow first. Head stays pressed against that noodle, hip inside, hips are turning. Yeah, beautiful, dude. That looks so much better. Do it again. Once we do this and you clip a couple, you won't get those toe shots anymore after this. Head on the wall, hip inside. Perfect. One more, I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, beautiful, dude. That's perfect. Good. So let's do one rehearsal together. You cool there with your setup?
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up your hair, you know what I mean? Okay, cool. Let's do one rehearsal. So head stays in the wall. Show me the hip turn. Yeah, good, dude. Cool. Let's do one. Little half one. Head on the wall. Hips turn, not sway. Really good with the head on the wall. We need more of the hip turn, not sway.
Gotcha.
And so as we're exaggerating that, this here, you see your right hip relative to this stick?
Yeah.
Let's say you start like 1 inch away from it. I would want you to feel like you get farther than 1 inch away.
Gotcha.
So maybe 2 inches. Now for you, that's gonna feel like your hips are actually going towards the target.
Right.
Now I'm not gonna let you over exaggerate this too much.
Yeah.
What we want when you're practicing, if you start 1 inch, let's say you start 1 inch, is you should be slightly farther away. Call it 1.5 inches, right, from there.
Yeah.
In these exaggerations, right, always to fix a problem, you gotta do the opposite and exaggerate.
Right.
If your issue's still kicking into it too much, bingo, then you need to feel like you're getting farther. Yeah, exactly, right. So that'll feel like your hips, maybe your tailbone here, is actually working a little bit towards the target on the way back. Show me an exaggerated hip, head stays on the wall, hips, yeah. So now that's exaggerated, right? That's exaggerated. Do that again.
Exaggerate?
Exaggerate too much. Perfect. Now let's do that one more time, dude. I'm gonna show you, hang on 1 second. Let me grab this. So here's what we're gonna do, Tyler. We're gonna do rep 1, exaggerate it where your hips go too far forward. Go ahead and show me that now. Now hit a ball feeling that same thing. So head stays in the wall, hips too far forward. Rehearsal first, yeah, good. Head stays on the wall, hips inside. Little hip high, that's perfect. Cool. Same thing, keep 100% of your focus on the head on the wall and the hips. We'll clean up the rest as we go. Good. Head on the wall, hips inside the circle. Yes, good, good exaggeration. Way better. Now your hips were more forward that time on the backswing and the contact was cleaner. Meaning your hips actually stayed where they normally are.
Okay.
And then that one you hit clean. The one before, your hips moved to the right too much and we hit too far behind. Now that'll get easier and easier and easier to like tell when you're practicing. Yeah. But I want you to correlate, I hit that fat, 99% chance my hips went too far to the right. Right?
My point moved back
Exactly.
to where it hit, the fat part.
To where the club hit.
Yeah.
So anytime you hit fat for the short term, you got to think, my hips work too far to the right, I'm going to feel them more forward. And then when you're using camera, you want to move 1 inch forward of where you start. That's like, how do I know how much? 1 inch. Not 4, not 0, 1, right? And then if you hit the ball on the toe, you should think, my head worked back off the wall. Yeah. So you correlate those two. Now you're still going to hit a couple hooks for the short term because of your grip part. But what I'm seeing we're doing, I don't want to add too much to the plate at once. Gotcha. And where we're going to be, if you're hitting them solid with no toe shots but a little bit of hook, we could shoot in the low 80s. Even right now. You know what I mean? Like we can get those other pieces of color. Let's do it again. So the head, yeah, good. One rehearsal, exaggerate the hips a little bit. Head stays on the wall, hips forward. Beautiful job. Cool. Yeah, really good. That feels solid, yeah? Yeah. And center of the club face. Yeah. Yep. Now, here's how I would look at this. We're doing hip high, right? Remember when I first came to train with you? So we didn't go like 4 plates on the bar.
Max out, yeah.
So what I would do, usually, and I think you would agree with this too, if you go slower at first, you end up farther in the long term. I would master this at hip high, at the speed you're going now, with this and that for the first 30 days. I would like to see you again 30 days where I don't need to even tweak the hip or the head. And then the next 30 days, we'd lengthen out the swing. Maybe go shoulder to shoulder. Master that for 30 days, and then we'd go full. So like 90 days from now, your full swing, this and that would not be an issue. And then the only thing we would need to do would be tweaking the grip and the handle location. If we could guarantee 90 days from now those two issues were out, I think both of us would be happy.
Yeah.
The mistake here is like, let's add more, let's start going longer, and we never really get any of it. You with me?
Yeah.